hello everyone, thanks for taking the time to come out tonight. My name is Nina Liang. I'm one of the at-large counselors here in the city. Unfortunately, a ward counselor is going through some health things, and unfortunately Bill couldn't be here tonight, but as a fellow Ward 6 resident, I want to take the opportunity to jump in and help out my fellow Ward 6 residents where I could. So I'm hosting this meeting tonight with Ed Fleming and Mr. Carey, and just to start, I would like to pass around the sign-in sheet. So my style of community meetings, just to be transparent with you all, normally as ward counselors, they're the folks that hold them. So as at-large counselors, I rarely get this opportunity, but I do cherish them. And what I like to do, and Mr. Fleming knows, is take notes. I'm here tonight to hear everyone's concerns, to moderate, to make sure that everyone is heard. And then afterwards, I send them bullet points of action items that are going to happen next, what we're all to expect. So I like to BCC everyone in the email so we can all be on the same correspondence. If that's all right, I'm just going to pass this around to folks, okay? We'll start here. So we can pass it down. Thank you. And if you want to go ahead and start, I'm just going to start writing some notes, and then we'll do some Q&A afterwards, okay?
Thank you, Nina, by the way, for hosting the meeting. I really appreciate it. Hi, folks. My name is Ed Fleming. I'm an attorney here in Quincy. My law office is at 85 Clay Street, Wallaston. I'm here representing Mike Carey, who's the owner of the property at 65 Dundee. We're also joined by Alan Drunas, who's a friend of Michael's and who's going to assist him in the building, the construction of the homes, if approved.
Sorry, can everyone hear him okay? Just speak the microphone.
Can you speak up, please?
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you want to speak up or do you want to? Hello? Hello?
You might want me to shut this off in a minute. Again, my name is Ed Fleming. I'm an attorney in Quincy, and I represent Mike Carey. And we're also joined by Alan Drunas, who's a friend of Mike's, and is going to assist him in the building of the homes if they are approved after we go forward with the process. The first thing I want to clarify is a mistake that I made on my letter that I forwarded out to the neighborhood through Nina, where I indicated that Mike actually lived in the home. He does not live in the home right now. In fact, he told me tonight that he actually lived there from 1986 until 1992. And then because of a separation with his wife actually continued to reside in the property until 2003. And then after she left the property, he rented it. So it was my mistake when I indicated that he lives in the property. And I apologize for that. The property that we're talking about is 65 Dundee. And it encompasses the entire parcel of land that's shown here. It's about a 15,872 square foot parcel. And as you know, it's improved by a single family house that sits on the property now. And there's a garage that's located up here in the corner. The Coffees, who are here tonight, owned a strip of land here that Mr. Carey bought from them some time ago. And when he did so, that was all incorporated and all became part of the lot and the parcel that he owned, even though it seemed like a separate use in a separate parcel. The house has been there since 1940. It was constructed in 1940s, and the garage was as well. What Mr. Carey is proposing to do now is move back to the neighborhood. And to do that, he hopes to build two houses by subdividing the existing 15,000 square foot parcel. And this subdivision will create two new lots. One that will essentially have frontage on Carrick and also in the corner of Dundee, and a second parcel that will have frontage on Dundee. These parcels that he's creating, or these lots that he's creating, actually conform with zoning. The zoning in this particular section, and all of Squantum for that matter, is zoned Residence A, which is single family. It requires single family use. It prohibits any other use, any multifamily, any other use. These parcels, when created, would require lot sizes of 7,650 square feet. That's the minimum. That's the zoning requirement in Residence A, 7,650. This parcel here is about 8,100 square feet, and this parcel here is about 7,700 square feet. So both of them are actually bigger than what the zoning requires. So they conform with zoning. Because Mike didn't want to split this up with crazy shaped lots by having, for example, the lot line come here and jog out onto Dundee, what he did is he created two, what I'd say normally shaped, rectangular shaped parcels. And when he did that, what he does is that he created here a 65 feet of frontage. The zoning in Residence A, however, requires 85 feet of frontage. Now, Mike could do that here. He could actually create a lot that had 85 feet of frontage because he has plenty of frontage all around the lot that he could create. He could have sufficient frontage for this lot. He could simply have this lot line come here and then go out, kick out here and create 85 feet of frontage and then build a house. And as long as the house conformed with zoning, meaning it was set back, as it has to be set back 25 feet from the front property, from the front lot line, 13 feet from the side lot lines, and 20 feet from the back, he could build a house there. And he wouldn't need any relief. All he'd need to do is go and pull a building permit at the building department. And he wouldn't have to be here sharing the plans with anyone because he could do so by right. He could also build a house on this lot by right. But what he wants to do is he wants to build two similarly sized homes. And in order to do that and create the lots as he's doing, he's going to need relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals, what they call a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, to provide 65 feet of frontage for this parcel, as opposed to 85 feet. And he wants to set the house here on this site, and he's asking for a variance from the rear, from the side setback. That's actually considered a side setback, not a rear, even though it's at the back of the house. It's considered a side setback. And that side would require a setback of 13 feet, and he's only proposing 10 for that side setback. So that's essentially the variances that he's asking for. He's asking for a variance here for the side setback, and he's asking a variance here for the frontage of the parcel. In all other respects, these lots conform with the zoning. In the houses that are being shown here on the site, that are also shown kind of by this plan, there's two different views of this plan. The greenhouse is the house that will front on Dundee, and the gray house is the house that will front on Cary. They're both, I would consider, modestly sized homes. They're not mansions in any way. They're about 2,600 to about 2,900 square feet in total size. This house being about a 2,600 square foot house, it's a standard 2.5 story with standard living area on the first floor with a garage, a 2-car garage that will pull under the house with the driveway coming off of Dundee. And this house will have basically an extended garage with a living area above the garage. And that's about a 2,900 square foot in my math when I went through the plan. These essentially show the footprints or the floor plans of the homes. They're 4-bedroom and 2.5 bath. Oh, yeah, sorry. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. I'm sorry. So again, they're not monstrous houses. They're I think reasonably sized homes that will fit in the neighborhood, that will be consistent with a lot of the other homes, beautiful homes that are in the neighborhood. They won't overwhelm the site, as you can see on the plan. There's a significant amount of area, yard, for green space, for landscaping, for fencing, for outside area of decks. The parking that's being provided for both of these homes, as I indicated, is a 2-car garage with a large driveway that will provide for additional parking for folks that visit the home. Probably at least another 2 cars, maybe even more than 2 cars within those driveways. Parking is always an issue in these neighborhoods, and I think that this provides adequate parking. So that's essentially what the proposal entails. Because as I indicated, these lots as they're created and the houses as they're laid out will require zoning approval, we need to file an application with the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board would then mark this matter up for hearing. They'd send notice to folks that are within 300 feet of the home. They'd publish a notice in the Quincy Sun, and then there would be a public hearing. During that public hearing, we would make a full presentation of our proposal, just like we're doing tonight. And then you, as neighbors, would all have an opportunity to be heard, to speak about the proposal, explain any concerns that you may have or your support of the proposal. And then the Zoning Board of Appeals will make a decision in granting or denying the variance. We hope that after you hear this and we talk about your concerns tonight, that you'll be comfortable with the proposal and you'll be able to support it. Obviously, they're concerned about what the neighbors feel about these proposals, but I think single-family homes of this magnitude in this neighborhood seems to be very reasonable. I know the home right now that Michael has owned for a number of years has become deteriorated, run down. It certainly needs a new investment, and Michael wants to make this new investment because he wants to live back here where his children went to school, where he lived for a number of years, because it's a beautiful community and he wants to come back. So that's essentially what we're looking to do, and we're here to answer any questions that you might have. Yes?
So does he own the garage that's between the coffee's house and his house?
He does.
That white one?
Yeah, there was a strip of land that was created with a garage.
No, I know, I
was
just
built.
didn't, I know what you're talking, I just want to know if he owned it.
Yeah, and then that will come down when the house comes down as well. Yeah.
Actually, I have a question now.
Yes.
Sorry, and so one of the comments I'm going to make is, and I just wanted to know which of the properties he's going to reside in, if he knows already, and then what plans for the other property.
So he's going to live in the home that's going to face Dundee. Right now, it's shown, as a green, kind of a lime green color. Although Michael said he's not going to paint it lime green. I said, representation of the homeland, but he doesn't want to do it in that color. But these are just representations of what they could look like.
Sure, and do you know what he plans on doing with the other property? Sell it? Thank you, sir.
Help him pay to build the other house, I guess. So,
Could you please go over the setbacks one more time?
sure. Thank you. So first of all, there'll be a request for a variance from the frontage requirement, which is, as I said, 65 versus 85 feet of frontage. This house will be set up in full compliance with the zoning, meaning it has 13 feet on either side of the home. It will be set back 25 feet from the front, and it will be more than 20 feet from the rear. So that's all in compliance with the zoning. This house, however, because it's located on the corner, and because it needs to be back from the road as much as what they consider reasonable, I believe it has 15 feet of frontage as this area kicks out. So it's about 15 feet from the road here and 10 feet from the back property line, or the side property line as you look at it from this angle. So there's relief here, 15 feet versus 25, and 10 feet versus 13. Those are the setback relief requests. And what's strange about a corner lot is that both this and this is considered frontage, which means the house has to be set back 25 feet from this property line and also from this property line. So that's what makes it difficult to lay this house out in full compliance.
Just a follow-up question to that. Why the greenhouse then did you not build the model kind of back farther so you don't have to ask for the variance on the front? Or am I missing something else on the road frontage?
It's not the frontage. It's the distance of land in front of the home. So from here, measuring from this corner to this corner of the lot, it's only 65 feet. Yeah, but this house is actually set back 25 feet from the street. No, it's okay.
In terms of the existing house now, if you had to superimpose it onto that illustration, where would it fall?
I think I may have an existing conditions plan. I don't know if it's large enough to see, but let me see.
Like how far back does that house on Carrick actually go beyond the existing structure?
The existing house that starts here and then it goes to about here.
But what about the back?
At the back, yeah, well, this here is different. The back is back out there.
This shows
It was
it.
a very long house.
I don't know if you can see this plan. Well, I don't have enough hands.
How far, how much more?
But this is the home, this is the home right here. This diagram is the home. So as you can see the setback, the house is set back about, looks like it's about 17 feet from, so similar distance from the corner here, from Carey, the corner of the house is about 17 feet back from the street. And it's about, looks like it's about 29 feet from Dundee to this same corner.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, sorry, if you're looking at the house, the current house right now, how far back into their backyard is the new structure going to be? Apparently it has nothing to do with setbacks, because the setbacks are in the front and the right side. I'm more curious on the left side.
You want to come up to the plan and show me?
Yeah, I happen to live at I own the property at 6 Avenue.
Aberdeen, so you're back.
So my house is right here.
Oh, okay.
And so if his current house is here, how far back is it from?
I can tell you exactly.
Backyard.
Yeah. So it's, it's about 36 feet from the property line. So from here to the back property line, it's about 36 feet.
The other house.
This house here is,
Yeah.
sorry. It meets the zoning requirement, which is about
It's gonna be 10
13.9.
feet farther back in the structure.
From the current structure,
Current
10
structure.
feet back.
And the
Okay.
rest is yard.
Yeah, it's about 14 feet.
Okay.
The existing house, yeah, the existing house is about 40 feet or so.
From the backyard.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a 2-story structure back there.
This is, it's a 2.5 story standard height. 2.5 stories is allowed in residence A, which is, it's a height limitation. Yes, sir.
With a residence, it's going to face Carrick Road, is that correct? One of those?
This house, yeah.
Right. Any traffic studies with respect to Carrick Road? It's a very tight street, and just with unlimited, fire codes, emergency services, storms, on-street parking. It's a very tight area.
There wasn't a traffic study done for a single-family house, but what happens as part of the zoning review is that all of the departments in the city, including the traffic department, the DPW department, the health department, the fire department, all review the plans and they comment on them back to the zoning board of appeals, and they can add certain conditions within the decision. But there was no traffic study done for a single-family house. It won't generate really any traffic within the neighborhood. It's not a multi-family, or a business. But it certainly will be reviewed. That's the difference between being able to do something as of right and requiring zoning. If it was as of right, meaning if he laid this out in full compliance with zoning, he could build 2 houses there and he wouldn't have to talk to anybody. He wouldn't have to go to the zoning board of appeals. He would just have to get a building permit. Because this is going to the zoning board, there's going to be a level of review that's undertaken by the city to make sure that it's in compliance with this, and it addresses the concerns that were raised, and that will be raised here. Sir?
My name's Craig Anderson. I live at 79 Aberdeen Road. But just to follow up on the question that was just asked, I'm not so much concerned about the location or frontage as it starts to congest the area more. One house facing Carrick, one house facing Dundee. And for instance, Carrick's a pretty narrow road. Any vehicles that are parked along the side of Carrick on the house on the other side of the corner, Carrick and Dundee, make it as narrow, as short as the road is. It also just makes it a 1-lane road. Even Dundee is not that wide a road as well. Any cars parked right now there are really no cars that park in that area on Dundee, but with the construction of these two houses, you can envision cars would be parked along the side. That's going to make Dundee a one-lane road through that stretch, at least from Carrick and Standish up to what's the next road up there?
Aberdeen?
No, not Aberdeen.
Ocean.
No.
Standish?
The next road that runs down to the school off Dundee. Hawkins, no, not Hawkins.
Richfield.
Richfield.
Well, I guess the hope is...
It starts to congest the area a little.
Sure. Again, we're not asking, I don't think Mr. Carey's asking to do something that he can't do by right.
And I'm not saying he can't do it from that perspective,
But
from the neighborhood perspective, it doesn't add anything.
no, I understand. And well, the hope is that this is going to add quite a bit to the neighborhood. This is going to be two new, beautiful homes that people are going to spend a significant amount of money on and invest in the community. But the goal, sir, was to design these that they're going to have enough parking to deal with the parking demands of the house. Now, when you have a party and you have numerous guests over, sure, people have to find a place to park. But in a normal day, and then in a normal course, there's going to be at least 4 cars being allowed to park off the street. That won't congest the street, as you're talking about. 2 within the garage, and then another 2 at least within the driveway. Sir?
I'm just curious, you said where the garage is behind with those 2 houses going, that owner subdivided and they bought a portion of the subdivision? Where the white garage is, there's a house there. Wasn't that lot subdivided at one time?
Yeah, they sold off a piece.
Just, that's what I'm asking, just a piece of it though?
Just a piece. But their house, but their lot conformed because they had a big lot.
Right,
So they didn't need this land, and Mr. Carey talked with them, and they agreed to sell him this piece so that he could create a new home, a new lot.
How much was that? How much did you buy? How much
I don't know.
space?
I don't know.
But
I don't know how long ago you bought that property. That was quite a while ago. Yeah, about 5 or 6
Yeah, no
years.
problem.
Yeah.
Just enough to be able to do this. The other people who sold it didn't want to sell the whole subdivision,
Right,
build a
right,
house right
right,
there.
right, 'cause they sold it.
decided-
They sold it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just curious on how it worked out. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just curious by something you said earlier. So what you're saying is, if he went to the zoning board and this didn't go through,
Right.
he's still building 2 homes. He's just going to make the other one smaller.
I don't know what he's going to do. I think
Oh, I thought that's what you
his
said.
hope was
He
that
had every right to do that. I thought you said.
he'd gain all your support and love, and you'd all come out and speak in favor of his proposal. I don't know what Mr. Carey's intentions are
I thought you said
afterwards.
that.
And
I
I
thought you
only
said
said that for purposes of zoning, he could build 2 houses here. If he gets denied, is he going to want to do that? I don't know. I don't know what he's going to want to do. I guess he'll have to think about that.
Monitoring, I need to build 2 houses.
He needs to build 2 because he wants to build this home for himself. So in order to afford it, he needs to do something. Yes.
I live at 34 Aberdeen, which is a hill. I live just where the hill starts to go down.
Okay.
My house abuts the back of Dundee.
Okay.
I've lived there 36 years. I used to be able to just open a little storm drain when rain came in. The past several years, coincidental with new construction, the 55, it got worse. I've had to put in 2 sump pumps. Fortunately, my cellars are finished. It's like a cellar and a half garage under. I had to put one in the cellar, and then I ended up having to put one into the garage. There are days when it rains, like a large rain, that I feel like I'm heating out the whole neighborhood. I've also heard, I think a couple of doors down from me, someone was complaining, they get it even worse. When 2 new foundations go in, or partial foundation, I have a concern that I've had to put in some pumps, so my property value is now devalued because anybody will say, well, gee, you take on water, so that's not a good sign. And if it does require me to get another sump pump or whatever, what, in other words, is the value that he's getting, and he is going to be able to put up, a home and sell them and all that. What about the neighbors that have this problem with runoff?
It's a great point. And one of the things that Mr. Dundee, Mr. Carey, I'm sorry, Mr. Dundee, Mr. Carey, needs to provide is he needs to hire an engineer, and an engineer is part of the development team, and the engineer has to do what they call stormwater management, meaning he has to show and prove to the city, when the city reviews this application, that he's not going to create any more water runoff into the neighborhood, and that he controls and handles the runoff on his own site. So that's a great point, and that's a great thing about the review process, is that the city makes sure that that's not going to happen to you when there's a permit in place. Now, having said that, if he wanted to build a 10,000 square foot house here, that level of review, or the same level of review, does not happen. And that's what's happened in the community. I walk the community regularly. I see them, the hotels that have been built, huge homes, but they're done by right. They don't need any zoning relief. When zoning relief is needed, they have to do that review. And you can rest assured that the city's going to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. And it doesn't happen to any of the abutting properties, that he handles his own water on his own site. So for example, the driveway, the roof runoff also has to be collected on site, has to be dealt with and managed on site. And he has to prove and show to the city that he's doing that.
But I'm not sure that the city is aware that our houses that are behind there are taking in water. I don't know where they would have that knowledge.
Well, they won't necessarily know that, but what they'll know is how much runoff comes off his property and whether or not he's preventing that runoff from running onto your property. So they can say for certain by the calculations that they do that he's not adding to your problem.
There'll be two dry wells on the property.
They'll be, yeah. Right.
It depends on that, but I should connect though afterwards to make sure we connect with you, just so it's not on there.
So that's exactly it. Dry wells, we're going to handle the runoff from the property so that it won't go off the property. But your point is valid, and the city doesn't necessarily know what's happening on everybody's property, but they certainly know what's happening on this and what's going to happen on this if this development happens. And they're going to make sure that they don't add to your problem. Okay?
Are both houses going to be built at the same time?
Is that the plan? To build them at the same time?
Probably going to build one at a time.
And what's the anticipated construction period?
If I get to go ahead, whenever I get to go ahead, I build a green one straight away.
What are you thinking for time frame for the construction?
If we can get it done, start in June. I'll start whenever I get.
6 months?
Yeah, about 6 months.
So,
And then another 6 months for the second house?
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I'd wait because I want to sell my house in Milton.
So you won't move right away on the next one?
So a year of construction vehicles on carriage?
And Dundee.
Yeah. I know it can be a little disruptive during construction, but the hope is that, once these houses, and Al, you might be able to speak to this, when these houses are closed in, the level of disruption certainly will be minimized.
Yeah, the first 30 days, the foundation, the heavy part, the framing is probably the most disruption, but once you trades, your plumbers, electricians, heating, it's mostly small vehicles, vans, cars.
There's nowhere for them to park either. There's no parking on Dundee or on Carriage.
No, they'll park on the
So
site.
they'll
They'll have to park on the site.
I'm going to have a double lot, so if I'm building, if I knock down the house that's there,
They'll
I'm
just park
building
on
the
the sidewalk?
greenhouse and all the rest of the lot.
And what the city does is they require what they call a construction management plan. So for example, if your concern is, big vehicles are going to block the street, they have to have a plan in place, and usually it's allocating a certain area of the site that the cars or the trucks can pull in off the street so that they won't interfere with the neighborhood. It's certainly the traffic. Do you have a question? Oh, yeah. Well, they'll use a big piece of machinery that will take it down. I don't know if you can drive it, though. I don't know.
That's actually a great question. What are we looking at for demolition of the current property?
Do you know what the time
It's
frame?
going to take 2 days.
Yeah, actually, it has to be done, most likely today, 2 at the most.
And Nina, there's a number of steps that you take when you demo a property as well. You have rodent control, you have, dust and, dust control, all of those kind of things, and you have to get certain sign-offs from the city before you can take those steps. There's a question back there.
What's the plan right now with the 65 Dundee Road as it is right now? It's open, it could be, seawater going on, hopefully not.
There's definitely rodents.
Is there someone in the property right now in Dundee?
No, there's no one in the property.
I understand how. It's very self-evident, but just with respect of quality of life around the area, it's an abandoned building.
Yeah.
It was a part of the construction site, moved the roadway over. There's no sidewalks. I just want to reiterate the influx of a chaos it's going to cause of traffic. There's no sidewalks on Dundee Road. There's a fence right there. You put 8 gallons of water in a 5-pound bucket.
I disagree.
Oh, okay, that's why we're all here.
That's right. Sorry.
Are there any ledge issues with the lot? Are you certain to dig down?
We've done a few test holes and haven't found any issues with ledge.
What's the plan if you do for one of the foundations? Like, ship it away? Or
Yeah, we'd use it,
So you
hydraulic.
guys got to build a foundation on top of the ledge.
We would try to break it with a hydraulic hammer.
It's noisy. It's noisy.
Yeah.
The hope is that there's no, yeah,
I mean,
that's a good point.
when we put in the sewer and the water, we hit no ledge, which was quite a bit deeper than the proposed foundations. We did some test holes so that for the stormwater management and found no ledge. So, anything's possible, but what I know right now, I don't think there was anything.
I can say just from experience that from the front of the lot as it faces Dundee, near the intersection with Carrick and Standish, there's always been runoff from that lot across Dundee and down onto
Standish.
Standish. There's always been runoff there.
Yeah, the reason.
And this is going to improve, and the steps that are going to be taken here with the dry wells is going to improve that existing condition. That runoff shouldn't happen after these dry wells are installed. So it should be a dramatic improvement. And and going back to your point, I mean, I think that the idea was to build houses that made sense on the site, not 10,000 square foot homes, not even 5,000 square foot homes, homes that we thought, Michael thought were more reasonable in size, consistent with a lot of the homes in the neighborhood. Again, 2,600 square foot and about 28 to 29, and I say that only because of the extended garage that adds that a little bit more size to that. But all the steps that are taken in the issue about removal of ledge and things of that nature, those things have to go through, once we're before the city, not only in the permitting, but also in the building department, there's certain levels of protection that are put in place. That an overview, and if they run into ledge, they have to take certain steps when they remove that and make sure that it's not going to cause disruption in the neighborhood. Certainly not any blasting and things of that nature.
I have just 2 questions. My first one's really quick. On Carrick, because it is such a narrow street, are they going to have to take out the curb? Because they're not going to be able to swing in. It's that, you know what I mean? They're not going to be able to, it's going to be very hard to get in and out of a driveway that's facing Carrick because of because that one side actually has the curbs are pretty high.
Yeah. Well, there'll be a curb cut for the driveway. So they'll certainly.
So it'll just be where the driveway is. They're
Yeah,
not planning on
no,
trying to.
no.
Okay. And my other question is, and I mean no disrespect, however, in my opinion, that house is not, in the 6 years that I've lived diagonally across the street from that, no one has ever cared about that house. No one has ever put any work into that house. So it's very difficult for me to give any consideration to, he wants this, he wants to move from Milton, he wants these great houses. And I'm trying to respect it, but if you go to that house right now, to his point, what are you going to do now, though? Like, so I just have to suffer through this until he gets through these next 3 months and keep looking at all this dirt and keep looking at little rodents I see going in and out and water coming out. Like, I need more than, oh, look at these pretty houses that are going to be up in 2 years, hopefully, like, or yeah, whatever it is. I need, the house makes me crazy.
Yeah.
And the level of people that have lived there are despicable, and it's an insult to people that live there. So I'm a little ticked, and I just want some more answers.
Understood. Certainly Michael wants to make a substantial investment in this property. Maybe he hasn't done so yet. Michael could talk to you personally about the circumstances that maybe prevented him from doing those kinds of things and investing in the house. But I can tell you now, he certainly wants to make this investment. This is a substantial investment. to build these 2 homes. And he wants to move back to the neighborhood, so he's going to be your neighbor. You're not going to have, you're not going to have transient neighbors coming in and out of this property. But I hear you. Maybe you can talk to Mike personally about that concern, and he can tell you about the circumstances that he was going through. Sir?
I'm for the house, I must say. After listening to it, I've been around for a long time. My question is, what guarantees that the house will go up on time and you got money behind it? What happens if the foundation and run into ledge, cost him another whatever, 10, 30, 40,000, I have no idea, and he runs out of money. What does the city do on something like that? Guarantee, once he gets the okay, the project will be finished. Does he put any escrow money in? I'm just curious. I really don't know how that works.
Well, the permitting that's issued by the Zoning Board of Appeals is a 1-year permit, meaning he has to act on that permit within 1 year period of time. And that doesn't mean he has to finish it within that 1 year period of time, but he has to act on that. Are there guarantees and money set aside to guarantee that he's going to build it? No, not necessarily, but I mean, this is a property now. Once he tears that house down, he has no income coming in from. So if Michael can't finish it, likely the chances are that he's going to likely put it up for sale, and someone else will come by and build these 2 homes. And remember too that the Zoning Board of Appeals approval has certain conditions, meaning they have to build exactly what's been permitted. They can't build something different unless they go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And and all of the conditions they put in, things like the dry well systems and other things that protect the neighborhood, they have to be followed and complied with by anyone who builds it. So if Michael turns around, for example, and he permits this and he says, you know what, I just don't have the money to do this, I'm going to sell this project as a permitted project, he could do so, but then someone would have to come and build exactly what's been permitted.
But it could sit there if you're in trouble for a year just to find.
All
I know I'm going outside the envelope, but it just off what you said.
All I can tell you is the market is so hot, and Squantum is such a popular place that if Michael can't do it, there's going to be 10 people behind him ready to buy this and build houses.
Yeah, I get you.
I have a neighbor across the street, the house has been vacant. It's almost going on 18 months now.
Crazy.
They redid the house and nobody's moved in. I don't know what the delay is, what the holdup is, but things do happen, and, it's unfortunate that it could happen.
Surprising. Sir?
Ed, I don't want to say it's a smile on your face. I don't want to go that far, but if you really just took a second tonight and listened to what this young lady said in front of me about the disrepair that house is in. I walk my dog at night down Dundee, and many nights I've seen the front door of that house open. And I've seen the people I live on Meadow Street, and I've seen many, many different people walk up that street and go into that house. And there's a light in the basement that's kept on there at all hours. And there are numerous people that live in there. You see them come out in the morning, they throw cups, there's trash all over the place. It's just a terrible situation. And I'm going to go on the assumption that you don't live in the area, but
I don't live in Scotland. I live in Quincy.
Yeah, it's really an eyesore, and it's been an eyesore for a number of years. And it's easy to brush it off.
I don't take any of this lightly. I can honestly tell you, I understand the concerns, but I just can't respond to them, and that's why I thought it would be better for Michael to be able to talk to her about those concerns, and maybe Michael can speak to those. The other thing, though, I just want you to understand too, is that the first thing I did when I got this case is I called the city councilor, and Bill Harris, and then Bill put me in touch with Nina, and I said, we won't file anything with the zoning board of appeals until we first came to the neighborhood. So nothing's been filed with the zoning board of appeals. We came here, not at anyone's request, but at my doing. I reached out to the council because I knew that anytime we work in the neighborhood, I care enough about the neighborhood's concerns, and I know my clients do, that we want to come and talk with you first to make sure we can incorporate those kind of things in the plans. But I just can't respond to those comments, and I thought that it would be better for you to talk with Michael. So I'm respectful of your concerns, but maybe Michael could talk to you. Whether you want to do it here, Mike, or whether you want to proceed.
Better speak. I'm not a great speaker, but I bought the house in '86. I moved in there with my wife. We had our 3 kids there. we got separated, I moved out, and then went through sickness and everything, she ended up dying, and well, before that, we were separated. I was trying to do something with the house. In the meantime, I bought the bit of land off Michael Coffey. The first surveyor I went to, everything we did was all wrong. When I went to the city, you might think I'm dragging my feet, but I went to the city to start building these houses first. I said to get the runaround. That's when I brought Al on board, and it has been tough for me. I had tenants in there. I gave them cheap rent. I said when this is ready to be knocked down, I want you to move out within 2 months. And I thought that was going to be for 6 months. So I had the rugby guys in there for a couple of years, and then after that, I used to just rent it for the summer. And no one has lived there since September because of the new road going in. And they said if you're going to do any digging, you have to do it before the new road went in. That's when I asked Al to run sewerage and the water, and that's why all the clay and all the shit is on the lawn. So nothing's going to happen until it's either sold to someone else or we build something. I'm sorry about the mess, but no one has lived there since last September. I go in there when I have an off day. I've been taking metal out of the basement and trying to clean up.
But I mean, the trash that accumulated around the house
Yeah.
and everything, someone could have just put that on the street.
And cleaned up. The tenants that used to be there, I tried to help. And then because the house looked as if it was under construction, the garbage truck would never stop and take my stuff. It has taken it a few times. I'm sorry about the mess, but it's been good times. But hopefully we'll move on.
No, Mr. Karen, I appreciate that. And, so again, to speak to it, I take you down some things if this is, it seems to be sort of a company issue, even with folks that haven't been here tonight. And, if, when I send you this, if we can try to think of a plan in the interim before any construction starts, whether it's working with the ISD department, just try to keep sort of an ongoing upkeep of the location, while we're going through those zoning work process, that would be great. And I think, folks would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add, I think this is tastefully done for the neighborhood. I think this is a very tasteful plan. I really do. It's better than what's there now, for sure. And I live directly there at Dundee and Standish. I'm directly there. I see it every day, that house. And it is an eyesore that's there now. And this is only going to be an improvement. And I think a very tasteful one. And I don't think I was more worried about the construction aspect of it and the disturbance that way. And from what I'm hearing, and I never met Mr. Carey before, that he would take care of it if you had any problems with it. But trust me, I'm not shy. And if I thought there was going to be a problem with it, I'd be up there screaming right now. I think it's nice and done because he was well within his rights to put a big multi-family house up there, a big multi-unit. I mean, he's putting 2 nice houses in. I think it's tastefully done. That's just my opinion.
I think, obviously, I don't know you, Michael. You're such a nice guy. I haven't been here in Swan very long, but when I was buying my house, people said, "Did you see the party house?" And I knew exactly what house they were talking about right away. I live on Ocean. I don't know if I even have a right for the variance, but right now, I can't support this unless you make this a stronger case for our neighbors here around the protections that we're not going to have 2 party houses at the end of the day. So I think you need to get creative as an attorney to draw up something legally, and I mean this on paper, with the community that the plan that you're putting forward is going to have some repercussions if this doesn't go forward as possible. I mean, 1 house is sold, 1 house you live in, you're going to take care of it, and if not, think of something creative. You're an attorney. There's a $10,000 donation to the school. There's a $10,000 donation to something. So the neighbors and the community wins if Mr. Carey here decides to turn these into 2 party houses. Because as we all know, we can all say he's promising this. I think we need something on paper. You're an attorney. You would never do anything unless it was on paper. And I can't get on board unless I see something that says, I will be held to these standards, like the John Hancock was held to standards when they did various things, like various real estate deals are, until that happens.
Okay. We certainly put some thought.
The reason there were party houses was because there were short-term rentals.
I'm sure they had fun. I'm sure they were great guys.
Yeah, and there were students, so...
And I appreciate you giving someone free rent.
I don't think I'm going to be partying.
I think it's fair just to kind of circle back and remember that the houses can be built. regardless of
Well,
whether...
don't say that, okay? Houses can be built. No, you can, I could challenge this all day in court, and you're an attorney, so stop lying to people
Excuse me, sir, I'm
and
sorry.
telling
Nobody
them
interrupted
that
you
you
when
can't
were
fight this.
speaking.
So go ahead, but he could challenge us very clearly.
Just hear me out for a second. He's asking for a variance to have two equal and fair-sized lots. He could build the houses without anybody's permission with a little bit of a funky shaped lot, and, you know, with all due respect, you just have to deal with it. He's doing the right thing by coming to the community and asking permission to support
Absolutely.
a fair lot.
I agree.
So,
But don't spread this
it's
rumor
a little
around here. Nobody can
unreasonable
stop
for you
it.
to ask for a
We're
10,000
here,
square
we're here because he wants to build this.
Right, and if he doesn't go to the zoning board, there's a million other ways I can basically hold this up if I wanted to, and he'd be waiting around for 3 or 5 years. We could do a billion things and make this a nightmare. So don't tell people that.
We're not here to fight, so.
Well, don't lie to people as an attorney.
No, it's not, I'm not lying. I don't lie. I don't lie.
Attorneys don't lie.
I don't lie about this. I don't lie about this, man.
Just out of curiosity, you've been saying he's building this. Who's building this? Who's the general contractor?
Who's the general contractor? I think he's gonna use,
Yeah, I am a general contractor. I'm going to sub out, Al is an excavator, a developer as well. I'm going to sub out the framing, electrical, plumbing.
Any examples of what you've done before that we can see?
Well, I do a lot of work in town. And I've remodeled a lot of houses.
I did 3 houses in Swanton.
We'd love to know what you did.
I actually live on 95 Dorchester Street.
Okay, so that's good.
5 long.
we had, Al and I had neighborhood meetings just like this on those three
Everyone
houses.
did the same thing.
No, it's
Shepherd
just-
Street.
It's just like, it's nice to know who's doing
Yeah,
the work.
sure.
Seeing the example.
Mike's a good friend, I'm just trying to help him,
Yeah.
and like I said, so
And you
go to
would have-
Wambeck, Shepherd, and Dorchester Street.
And you would have a good sense then of how long a project like this would
It's going,
realistically
the first house is gonna take 6 months.
6 months.
The heavy, most disruptive is gonna be 30 days. From there on, it's gonna be much less disruptive. I think what drives this to be completed in a timely fashion is one, Mike wants to get it going, and the market is good, and he wants to get the second one going, so that, you know, he doesn't want to live next to an uncompleted project. No more than anybody here wants to.
Is this a standard size house, considered a standard size house?
2,600 square feet is probably the smallest you do to,
Make money?
no, it's not really to make money, but to protect your investment. I mean, he's not making money by moving into it, but
I'm just saying,
everybody's
many
biggest
of the
investment.
houses around us, these houses are, they were built, but many of the houses
Are small.
around are
But
substantially
today-
smaller.
right.
4-bedroom houses are range most people.
Well, but it's a great family neighborhood. Swanham's a great family neighborhood. And so a 4-bedroom house really is a nice family home. And that's why I think he thought that that would be a good size for this site.
Is there any codes for how many parking spots per bedroom? Wendy?
Right, there's a zoning code that requires that, absolutely, yes. And that's why there's 2 + 2 provided here, so 4 parking spaces.
One per bedroom or 1.5?
No, I think it's 2 spaces, I think, for the first 3 bedrooms, and then 1 space for each additional bedroom, or something to that effect. I'd have to look at the zoning. I'll probably have it here. Yeah, well, downtown, I mean, most of the units that are being built in Quincy now are 2-bedroom, or 1 or 2-bedroom units, as studios. That's why these kind of single-family home with 4 bedrooms is nice.
Are both addresses going to be Dundee, or are they switching the house on the corner to Herrick?
That's assigned actually by the engineering department. Chances are this will probably carry the 65 Dundee. I'm not sure what the engineering department will assign. Yeah, they may very well assign that at Carrick Road, I guess, Carrick Street. Sure.
I don't know if I heard correctly. Has he owned that property since, you said 1986?
Yes.
Yes.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, from 86 to 92, he lived there, and then his wife lived there until 2003, right?
Yes.
Do you have a question?
Oh, I was just going to say that I'm on Ocean Avenue, there's been probably 3 houses built within a short amount of time. I think at Sonoma, there's been 2 houses that have gone up, and then there's one on Aberdeen. And you know, it was absolutely fine. I mean, the building is out in the morning, and I was thinking recently, geez, I think I'm gonna miss hearing them, banging away out there, and, it was, but I think this is, I really do, and we don't know what kind of hard times maybe we keep following, so, this is great, and I think also it takes a lot of courage to go out here in front of all these people and answer all the questions and all of that, but, in my opinion, I think it's a great idea.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, so what I'm going to do is, did everyone get a chance to sign in with their email address over here? Thank you. Your email's going to be private. I'm BCCing everyone that's on this, but again, it's important so that I can send, and I would like to grab copies of this from Mr. Fleming, as well as the 13 questions that I have here that are due follow-ups. And for example, one of them is, how are we going to manage the property from now until construction, and even after that, construction schedules, what we're looking for parking from the TPAL department, which is the new traffic parking along the lighting department, what's their involvement going to be, items like that. And so again, I'm going to be sending all of this in a summary to Mr. Fleming, along with the plans, BCC all of you that signed up in it, and then when they respond with, okay, these are the next steps, this is the timeline, I'll make sure to then forward that to you again, just so that moving forward, regardless of what the step is, if there's any action on this, I do want to loop all of you in via email on that. So again, if you can sign in on this, I am going to BCC you, I won't spam you with things, I promise. But that would be helpful so that we can make sure to communicate right up until, if this goes in front of zoning, I'll be there again, since I was here to represent this meeting. I will definitely be there at that zoning meeting as well, if and when it gets held. Again, straight through until completion. This is the best way that I can communicate any and all documents, any and all correspondences. My number will be on there as well, so please feel free to call. But otherwise, I would love it if you guys could put your email in here as well. Do you have anything else, Mr. Curry? Is there anything else before we wrap up? And if you have any questions too that pop up along the way, please don't hesitate to let me know them. If it's all right with you, I would like to forward that to Mr. Fleming, and then again, BCC residents here, because you might have a great question that somebody else didn't think of. And I believe any and all questions related to this project, since you guys all made the effort to come out tonight, should hear those questions as well.
So just in addition to what Nina's saying, in addition to trying to incorporate those concerns that you have into the plans and your comments about, some kind of assurances that it's going to move forward and it's not going to turn into something different than what we're promising. Once we've done that, the plans will be finalized. We'll make an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'll notify the counselor so that she can then notify you herself, but you'll also receive notice from the zoning board. We're required to obtain what they call a certified abutters list from the assessor's office. That's 300 feet around the property. If you're within that 300 feet, you're qualified as an abutter, which means that you'll get a notice. Otherwise, I'm sure you'll get notice from the counselor, and then it will be a publication in the Quincy Sun, which is, as you know, is on Wednesdays and Thursdays of every week, and you'll see those notices. You've probably seen them when you've read the Sun in the past, but you'll see this notice there. But that will just be in addition to the notices that you get. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Did everyone get a chance to sign in?